Everybody. Warm welcome again to Mike Solorio of Prime Lending. Mike, thank you so much again for joining us today. I have a couple of good questions for you about loans. And the first one is called assumable loans. Myself as a realtor, we see these in the confidential remarks of the property that the loan is assumable. Can you explain for our buyer consumers, what does that mean?
Yeah, so it is kind of just like in the words, you get to assume that person's loan for the terms and the balance that they currently have. So if somebody has a current loan with the interest rate of, say, 3.5%, that's something you get to assume and the current balance. Now, just like any other loan, you have to qualify based on income, credit, or debt ratios. All those things still apply. And probably the most important thing that I left out is the loan has to be an assumable loan. That means the lender that currently owns the note, and on the note, it'll state if it is a assumable loan. Not all loans are, so that's something that you need to check with the current owner of the loan as well as the borrower.
That's a great point, Mike. And just as you were explaining that, my thought was, how would you know if it's assumable? So if you are the current owner of that loan, if you will, that you're responsible for paying that loan, you would have to
Sure.
go back to your, if you are organized enough to have your original loan documents, to go to go back and see, does it say assumable? Or would it just be simpler to give them a call and say, hey, is my loan assumable?
Yeah, I mean, it might be simpler to give them a call. The other thing with that is, though, you may be getting somebody in customer service and they're not necessarily reading the note or have access to the note.
Good
So
point.
you may need to be persistent. And again, if you're able to find the note, you're able to see for yourself. It'll be in that document.
Okay. So if you
Yeah.
can't, if you don't have, if you're not as organized and have access to your records like that, as we all would love to be, who do we ask for if we call? You get customer service. Who do we ask for to say, hey, can you check on my note? Is this assumable or not? Do you know the
Yeah.
person we'd ask to speak with?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things, if you get a customer service rep, see if they're able to get you a copy of the note. That might be the first thing to do. Then, if
Okay.
not, if they're uncertain, ask to speak to a supervisor or their manager. As you go up, you're going to get somebody who has more knowledge of where to look for that answer.
Okay, great. So thank you for that. So now let's go over an example with somebody. So let's say, for example, there's a home for sale for $700,000, and the person who is selling the home, or the person or entity or family that's selling the home, they bought it when it was $300,000, and they put $100,000 down, and they only owed 200,000, for example. Well, let's say they
Okay.
still owe 200,000, just for easy math.
Okay.
But now the house is worth 700,000. So they bought it at 3, they owe 2, and now it's worth 7. But their loan is assumable at 3.5%. So what does that mean for the buyer?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And so what you have to remember is you're assuming that loan in its current state. Nothing can change. You can't add to the balance. So in this case, the loan amount that your new buyer is going to get when they assume it is a $200,000 loan. And so the rest of the money, the down payment in this case, if it's all going to come from down payment and they're purchasing it for, what was the purchase price in the new
700,000.
700. So that's what is that? A
It's
$500,000
a five hundred
difference.
thousand dollar difference.
Yeah. And that's a huge down payment. And so that's why a lot of times an assumable loan, even though it's possible, it just may not be practical.
Now, could you get a $500,000 loan from another lender to make up the difference? So you'd have
Yeah. The
really two
challenge
loans?
is yeah. Now the challenge there is that's going to now be a second loan, a second lien position. And most lenders don't want to be, first of all, a lot of lenders aren't doing those for starters.
Okay.
And second, most don't want to be in that second position, especially if it's a larger loan amount.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know I kind of gave an extreme example, 700,000, you only owe 200,000, but in your experience in general, are assumable loans practical for most people?
It could be practical if that loan balance on that assumable loan is high enough to cover a good portion of the purchase, or the buyer has a lot of cash they're putting down. And yeah, they are practical and they do exist. But again, not every loan has that option.
I suppose we have in recent times, if you bought at the height of the market, maybe in 2020, 21, where interest rates were really low, prices were high, but interest rates were really low, right? So
Yeah,
maybe that could be a
exactly.
good example.
Exactly.
Okay, because maybe everyone, you didn't put down a huge, if you didn't put down a huge down payment, you still owed a fair bit, then the amount of down payment would be less. Okay, I'm just sorry, I'm just trying to think this out loud like a
Yeah.
buyer. So,
Yeah.
okay, great. Is there anything else you care to share with us about an assumable loan, Mike?
No, it's just like any other qualification procedure from that standpoint. Just expect you're going to go through the same process of credit check, income, debt ratio analysis. You'll be providing just as much information to that lender as if it were just a new origination.
With the key point of you're going to need to bring in the balance of any difference between the agreed upon purchase price and the outstanding loan balance. Correct.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Mike, thank you so much for your time today. Let's stay tuned for the next series of questions. We'll be right back with Mike.
Bye.